everything you knew about power was completely wrong. We often think power means being in charge, having control, making others do what we want. But what if real power looks completely different? In the book of Revelation, John's crying because he can't open an important scroll. But then he's told to look for a lion. And instead, he sees a lamb. And not just any lamb. A lamb that looks like it's just died. Now, this isn't some kind of strange theology, but it does completely flip our idea of what power is on its head. And when you understand this, you can change how you deal with your friends, your family, and everyone else around you. So in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you why the strongest power in the world isn't about controlling others. It's about serving, and it's about giving. And how this lamb power is quietly changing the world right now. This isn't just some old religious talk. It's life-changing wisdom that great leaders throughout all of history have used to make a real difference. So keep watching, and you might just learn how to change your world right now. Have you ever noticed how obsessed we are with power? Our screens are filled with superheroes who defeat villains through superior strength. Our business books celebrate domination strategies. And our political discourse, well, it worships force. And I was thinking about all this the other day while I was watching The Empire Strikes Back with David. And if you remember in it, Luke and Han and Leia, they're facing impossible odds. They're up against a seemingly all-powerful empire where they are seemingly defeated. I mean, Luke has had his hand cut off, Han is encased in carbonite, and, well, Leia is left with Chewie, the walking carpet, and this scoundrel she's just met named Lando. But at the end of this film, where it seems like everything has gone wrong, the crew has come to discover once again their hidden strength, and that's being together. And it is that hidden strength that will help them to come back and to defeat the Empire in the return of the Jedi. Now, come on, did you think you were really going to come to church on May the 4th? Because May the 4th be with you. And not hear a reference to Star Wars? I don't think so. But it's not just entertainment, right? We see it in how we talk about success. You've got to crush the competition. You've got to dominate the market. It's all about power moves. And even in our relationships, we often operate with this unstated assumption that whoever has the most power wins. And I remember years ago, early in our marriage, I'd find myself in these absolutely ridiculous arguments with Alex. I'd be so focused on proving that I was right, on winning that argument, that I completely lost sight of our relationship. Anyone else been there? Yeah, okay, good. I'm glad I'm not the only one. It seemed that winning was more important than loving, and power seemed more valuable than connection. And this obsession with power shapes how we view everything, including how we read the Bible. It's why I think so many people approach the book of Revelation with such fascination and fear. We expect it to be about cosmic power plays, about God finally flexing his divine muscles to crush enemies. We treat it like a secret code that will tell us who will dominate at the end of history. But what if? What if? And here's the big question for today. What if Revelation is telling us something completely different about power? You see, in our reading from Revelation for today, we get one of the most dramatic scenes in all of Scripture. John sees a vision of heaven's throne room, and there in the throne room, there's this scroll that's sealed with 7 seals. apparently containing God's purposes for all of creation. But there's a problem. No one in heaven or on earth is worthy to open it. John actually starts weeping because it seems God's purposes might in fact remain unfulfilled. Then one of the elders says to him, "Don't weep. Look, the Lion of Judah, the root of David, has triumphed. He is able to open the scroll and its 7 seals." Now, if you know your Old Testament imagery, and don't worry if you don't, I won't quiz you after the service, I promise. This is powerful stuff. The Lion of Judah represents royal power, a conquering king from David's line. So John turns around, expecting to see a mighty lion. But what does he actually see? Then I saw a lamb, looking as if it had been slain, standing in the center of the throne. Wait, what? Not a lion, but a lamb? Not a creature of power, but a creature of sacrifice? Not a symbol of domination, but a symbol of vulnerability? Let's talk about a plot twist here. And the text is really, really specific. This isn't just any lamb. It's a lamb bearing the marks of slaughter, a lamb that has been sacrificed. And that kind of changes our expectations, doesn't it? And what follows is even more stunning. This slaughtered lamb is declared worthy precisely because he was killed. The heavenly beings sing, quote, "You are worthy to take the scroll and to open its seals, because you were slain. And with your blood you purchased for God persons from every tribe and language and people and nation." Do you see what's happening here? In heaven's perspective, Jesus' worthiness to rule comes not from his ability to dominate, but from his willingness to be sacrificed. The scroll representing God's purposes for creation is opened not through displays of force, but through self-giving love. And this is a completely different kind of power. And honestly, it's pretty counterintuitive to how we normally think, isn't it? So we know that to really appreciate how revolutionary this is, we need to understand its original context. Remember, Revelation was written during a time when Christians faced persecution from the Roman Empire, the world's dominant power. The emperor demanded worship, and Rome's message was crystal clear. We rule through superior strength. Crush us, and you will be crushed. Not much has changed in the world's view of power, has it? Just check your news feed or your local news station if you've got any questions about that one. But the thing is, the early Christians might have been tempted to respond in kind, to fight force with force, to mirror Rome's tactics. Or, on the other side of things, they might have despaired, feeling powerless against such overwhelming might. And we too know that feeling, don't we? But Revelation offers this mind-blowing alternative. It reveals that at the center of reality stands not a dominating emperor, but a slain lamb. And this lamb, that is Jesus, conquers not through inflicting suffering, but through enduring through it. Not through force, but through sacrifice. Not by eliminating enemies, but by loving them to the point of death. That's the plot twist worthy of the best movie you've ever seen. And this is so central to Lutheran theology. It's what we sometimes call the theology of the cross, as opposed to the world's theology of glory. Because on the cross, God reveals divine power, not by avoiding weakness, but by entering fully into it. Jesus doesn't save us by showcasing invulnerability, but by embracing vulnerability to its utmost. His death on the cross is how he stands victorious over sin and death. That's the bottom line of it all, that Jesus conquers through sacrifice, not force. And it's pretty different to how we usually think about winning. But think about what this means. The most powerful being in the universe chose to exercise that power through self-giving love rather than through domination. And what does that tell us about the nature of true power? I think it tells us a lot about what God considers important. Let me share then a story about what I think captures this different kind of power. So during the Civil Rights Movement, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and his followers faced a lot of harsh force against them. Water cannons, police dogs, and brutal violence. And they had every reason to respond in kind with equal force. But Dr. King insisted on non-violent resistance, on meeting hatred with love, on overcoming evil with good. Now, his critics called this weakness, and some even said that it was absolutely foolish. But time proved that it was, in fact, strength. Martin Luther King Jr. understood what revelation reveals, and that there's power in self-giving love that force can never match. As he famously said, quote, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that." My friends, that's lamb power, not lion power. And this isn't just ancient theology or history. It collides directly with how we live today. Just look around. We live in a world obsessed with power plays, and our political discourse continues to devolve into who can dominate whom. Our social media encourages personal branding and self-promotion. And even in our churches, we often measure success by size, influence, and resources. Butts and bucks. And that we consider those to be the markers of success. But what they really are the markers of worldly power. But what if we've gotten it all backwards? What if true strength looks like something else entirely? So we know that Jesus embodied this different kind of power. But what does it look like for us? And I think about all of the incredible people I've met through my years of ministry who embody this lamb-like power. The hospice nurse who offers gentle presence to the dying. The foster parent who opens their home to traumatized children. The person who chooses forgiveness when they have every right to retaliate. And this understanding of power changes everything about how we approach life's challenges. So let me give you a few examples. When we face conflict in our relationships, the world says assert your dominance, to win it at all costs. The Lamb says true victory might come through listening, apologizing, forgiving, even when we think we are the ones who are right. Anyone brave enough to try that one on this week? When we face systems of injustice, the world says either violently oppose them or passively accept them. The Lamb shows us a third way, creative, persistent, self-sacrificial resistance that refuses to dehumanize the oppressor. When we face personal suffering, the world says either deny it through positive thinking or be defined by your victimhood. The Lamb reveals our wounds, like his, can become pathways to deeper connection and even deeper healing. When we read frightening headlines about the state of the world says either to panic or to become absolutely cynical. The Lamb invites us to find hope not in domination, but in the unstoppable power of divine love. And so this brings us to the climax of our passage. After the Lamb takes the scroll, all of heaven erupts in worship. The 4 living creatures and the 24 elders fall down before the Lamb. Millions of angels sing his praise, and finally, every creature in heaven and on earth and under the earth joins the chorus. To him who sits on the throne and to the Lamb be praise and honor and glory and power forever and ever. This, my friends, is the ultimate reality check. Despite appearances to the contrary, the slain Lamb, not the imperial powers of this world, is the true center of reality. And one day all of creation will recognize this truth. Not just the powerful, not just the successful, but all of creation. So what difference does this make in our lives in the here and the now? Well, first it means that we can find genuine hope in a world that often seems hopeless. Now, not the fake hope that comes from believing that all things will magically improve if we just think positively, but the sturdy hope that comes from knowing love is more powerful than hate, mercy more powerful than vengeance, and life more powerful than death. When Jesus conquered through sacrifice on the cross, he demonstrated that God's purposes cannot be thwarted by evil, no matter how powerful evil appears. But second, it means we're invited to embody this different kind of power in our daily lives. What would it look like if we approached our relationships, our work, our civic involvement, and even our conflicts with lamb power rather than lion power? Maybe it means listening more than speaking, serving more than demanding, blessing more than cursing, finding creative ways to resist injustice without dehumanizing the oppressor. Maybe it means just being honest about our weakness instead of projecting an image of invulnerability. But finally, it means that we can approach Revelation not as a terrifying prophecy of doom, but as a powerful vision of hope. The mysterious symbols, the cosmic battles aren't meant to scare us, but to assure us that despite appearances, God's purposes of love and restoration will ultimately be the ones that prevail. The slain Lamb has already conquered, and we are invited to live into that reality right now. So we've come to the end of this sermon, and not so worse of the wear, are we? But it wouldn't be a proper sermon if I didn't leave you without a challenge now, would it? So here it is. In one specific relationship or situation this week, I want to encourage you to try exercising your lamb power rather than your lion power. Where you'd normally assert dominance, I want you to try serving. Where you'd normally defend yourself, try vulnerability. Where you'd normally seek vengeance, try forgiveness. And where you'd normally try despair, try hope. I'll be the first to admit this isn't easy, and it feels completely countercultural and maybe even a little bit foolish. The world will call it weakness, and they might even laugh at you. But remember, the slain Lamb at the center of the throne. Remember that in God's upside-down kingdom, sacrifice is stronger than force and love is more powerful than domination. And that in a world that worships force, we are called to follow the Lamb who conquers through sacrifice, finding lasting hope not in dominating others, but in the revolutionary power of self-giving love.
Wow, who knew what true power actually looked like? Now, if that sermon was inspiring for you, we invite you to share this message with others. We also invite you to like and to subscribe to our channel. By subscribing, you help us get the message about what true power actually looks like out into the world. You help us to bring inspiration to those who are in need of it. And you help us to love others, and to serve as the Lamb served.